Did people protest against mask wearing during the Spanish flu pandemic? The internet says it's true. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds like it's made up, but it's really true. Part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael, and I'm gonna keep this short. I have COVID. It's awful. I've been in bed for a week. I have lost 12 pounds. And I wanted to get a new episode to you, but I just couldn't do it this week. So I'll say this. I'm vaccinated, boosted, and this still sucks hard. You don't want it if you haven't gotten it yet. If you go to big public events with a lot of people, wear a mask. You don't want this. Here's an episode about masks that I did a year ago. I'm going to read you something I found on the internet. This is a doctor in Boston, Oliver Cranston. He was asked about his opinion of people who are pushing back against life-saving measures like masking and closures of schools and churches due to the pandemic. He said, quote, "I cannot help but be impatient or intolerant at some of the views expressed. Cranks should not be permitted to hamper the precautionary measures of the public officials." End quote. That again was a quote from a Boston doctor, Oliver P. Cranston, and it was a quote from December of 1918. That's what this week's episode is about. There were anti-maskers during the 1918 flu pandemic, what came to be known as the Spanish flu. If you're like me and you hear that quote, you probably think it was something pulled from a recent interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci, right? That's because what we're seeing now in 2021 happened in 1918. In fact, just about any time an authority like the government tells people they should do something, they push back. Listen to this audio from a 1984 news report about seatbelts.
But if everybody has to buckle up or pay a $10 fine, businessmen say they'll stop and shop and get their haircut somewhere else. Customers agree.
I oppose it on the basis that it replaces the free will of the individual with the desires of the state.
Whether we have the responsibility, whether we have the judgment to turn to the citizens of this state and be there in 1984, Big Brother.
So similarly, when the CDC recommended that mask wearing can help to fight the spread of COVID-19, people pushed back. But for a lot of those people, the ever-changing and updating of the science has confused them. Social media sources like YouTube and Facebook are ripe with misinformation about the pandemic. So if the CDC says one thing about masks and then updates their recommendation, a meme or post about the old guidelines can get spread just as much, if not more, than the newer recommendations. Or the very fact that they used to recommend that, but now they're recommending this, can be used in bad faith to show that they don't know what they're talking about. There's this quote that I love when people argue that, well, science isn't perfect. Science doesn't know all the answers. The thing that proves science wrong is more science, newer, better science. I don't intend to use this podcast as a soapbox, but let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Early in the pandemic, in February of 2020, the U.S. Surgeon General told Americans to stop buying masks. At one point, it was said that they were needed by medical professionals and that they didn't help the public enough for them to eat up the supply of masks. Then again, in March of 2020, we were told that healthy people not working in healthcare don't need to wear masks. Then 1 month later, April of 2020, health officials learned that people who don't appear to be sick are playing a larger than expected role in the spread. So new guidelines were to wear a mask in a public setting while traveling or around others in the same household who might be infected. This stance is strengthened in July when the CDC comes out with a study that seems to show that masking is definitely helping to slow the spread. From then on, almost all of the experts agree that masking is beneficial when it comes to curbing transmission of COVID. Major cities implement mask mandates, and it's still a hotly debated topic in the nation's schools. On Facebook, you'll see people using the previous statements from early last spring about masks not being required for healthy people to prove their anti-masking points. And even more dangerous, false Facebook memes keep popping up reportedly showing that mask wearers are showing up to ICUs with antibiotic-resistant strains of pneumonia. These have all been proven false. Reuters and other outlets have repeatedly debunked claims that mask wearing is a cause of bacterial pneumonia. Peer-reviewed studies in all the top medical journals have shown the effectiveness of mask wearing, but that doesn't stop the spread of the false and outdated information. There's even this controversial group, America's Frontline Doctors, who have made statements like, quote, masks are useless, end quote. That's an actual quote from one of the people affiliated with this group, Dr. Lee Merritt, who is an orthopedic surgeon. But MedPage Today, which is a peer-reviewed medical news site, found that none of the doctors affiliated with this group have treated any seriously ill COVID patients. None are infectious disease experts or ICU medical staff. One of the America's Frontline Doctors made the news by tweeting about the dangers of having sexual relations with demons and witches in their dreams and coming into contact with demon sperm. Yet people continue to point to information put out by this group by sharing their videos. YouTube has taken action to remove videos that promote dangerous misinformation about the pandemic, and Facebook has added warnings on the memes, but they're still being spread around. And that is why we hear stuff like this.
You literally cannot mandate somebody to wear a mask knowing that that mask is killing people. It literally is killing people. And we the people are waking up, and we know what citizen's arrest is, because citizen's arrests are already happening. Okay? And every single one of you that are obeying the devil's laws are going to be arrested. And you, doctor, are going to be arrested.
Angry rants at city council meetings, school board meetings, on airplanes, and stores. This fight against masks has turned really ugly. Where I live here in Hilliard, Ohio, it's turned into a heated issue in the upcoming election for the school board. Some claim it's about freedom. They say it's okay to wear masks, but nobody should be telling you to wear a mask. Some claim it's about science. One Ohio politician claimed it's because wearing a mask is covering up the face that God made in his image. But here's what I find fascinating. During the flu pandemic of 1918, the same thing happened. And we'll talk about that after a quick word from some of the people who helped make this show possible.
The camera zooms in on me.
So we get some high-proof alcohol, we get gasoline, anything that says
what makes our lives worth living is our mortality. If there were not mortality, we wouldn't be passionate.
Luckily for me, most of the beauty pageants that I've participated in don't.
I've done my fair share of blow, man.
I've always liked showing myself off naked.
Got up out of the seat, walked to me, and then slapped me.
Spontaneous conversation with people from around the world on Stranger Than Christian, available on your favorite podcast app and at strangerthanchristian.com.
Every college has that one professor who everyone wants to take a class with before they graduate. I know at Ohio State, where I went, there were classes with huge wait lists because the professors were so popular. One Day University brings all those professors together to present incredible live-streamed talks online for thousands of members every day. They've got more than 200 of these top professors from all over the country, from Yale, Harvard, Columbia, UCLA. It's pretty incredible. Every weekday, One Day University offers a new 1-hour live stream talk followed by a Q&A with the professor. And that's something you don't get in college without having to schedule office hours, and it's a whole thing. This is much easier. You can learn something new every time, kind of like you do by listening to this podcast. I just watched a professor from Amherst College give an awesome presentation on the science of happiness that's gonna stick with me. Also, I got a kick out of a class called Ranking the Presidents, Our Best and Worst by a professor from Lynn University. But you don't have to get accepted into Lynn or Amherst or Harvard or Yale. One Day University membership is just $8.95 a month or $89 a year, and it includes unlimited access to the daily live streams, plus more than 500 past recorded talks. You can try 2 weeks for free, and because you listen to this podcast, if you use the promo code INTERNET and sign up for an annual plan, you get your first year half off. Can't beat that. Check out One Day University by going to onedayu.com/internet or use the link in the show notes. I'm not a guy who wears blazers very often, but I've been wearing my new Scotty Vest sport coat like every day. It has 19 pockets. It makes me feel like 007 when I'm wearing it. The fit is great, the material is durable, and that's not even their most popular item. They have great, useful jackets for traveling, for hiking, and they're all built around having access to the stuff you need without carrying a bag. Tons of useful, functional pockets. I've known and loved this company for years, long before I ever had a podcast. My oldest Scotty Vest jacket is one they don't even make anymore, and it's still in perfect condition after wearing it for years. The best thing you can do is take a look at all the awesome pocket-packed clothing on their website. Give them a look at scottevest.com, and just by listening to this show, you get 15% off your order. Enter the promo code TELLME, all one word, TELLME. It's scottevest.com, promo code TELLME. Now let's get back to the story. In September of 1918, the district chapter of the Red Cross distributed anti-grip masks to every soldier barracked in the Washington, D.C. area and to every patient at Walter Reed. Grip was another word for the flu. It was the first known instance in the history of the United States in which masks were used outside of the medical community to fight disease. 1 month later, D.C. health officials started suggesting the general public should wear masks, and they began printing signs to post around the city. The flu had worked its way through the nation and was in the midst of a second wave that fall. The second wave was much more deadly than the first. In fact, most of the 675,000 American deaths happened not on the initial round of infections, but in this second wave. Globally, 500 million people, 1/3 of the world's population, had caught what people were calling the Spanish flu. By the way, the only reason it became known as the Spanish flu is because as it was spreading throughout Europe, the press in Spain was the only country that didn't suppress the news. In other places, they were concerned with hurting morale while the world was at war. So 500 million caught the 1918 H1N1 flu, and 50 million died worldwide. Compare 675,000 U.S. deaths with the number of U.S. deaths from COVID in just around 18 months, 710,000. During that second wave in 1918, Army camps were being hit hard with it. One camp, Camp Devens in Boston, saw 1/4 of their soldiers infected, and 757 of them died by the end of September. New York City's Board of Health required all people with the flu to isolate at home if they weren't in a hospital. By winter, public health officials were warning about the dangers of coughing, sneezing, or spitting in public. One health official, Morrison Swift, wrote a letter to the editor that suggested until there was a vaccine, the thing that people needed to do now was avoid mingling in crowds, and he suggested that people wear masks. And from there, the idea started spreading. Newspaper articles encouraged the wearing of masks, both through editorials and through ads placed by the Red Cross. Mandates followed. One of the most strict mask mandates occurred in the city of San Francisco. Anyone caught disobeying the mask order was fined anywhere from $5 to $100 and 10 days in jail. Not everyone followed the order. San Francisco's mayor was publicly arrested for not wearing his mask properly. He had it hanging from his ear while he smoked a cigar, and he was fined $5. Others complained that the masks got in the way of doing their job. In October, 110 people were arrested in San Francisco for either refusing to wear masks or refusing to wear them properly. A popular thing for men to do was to cut a hole in the mask to allow them to smoke. By 1919, the Anti-Mask League of San Francisco was formed. It included doctors, citizens, and civil libertarians. Their meetings brought anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 attendees. They held heated debate arguing against the wearing of masks. Some cited a lack of scientific data showing that masks were effective. Others claimed that the masks infringed on their freedoms. Mask orders just like San Francisco's were put into place in Washington, D.C., Phoenix, Indianapolis, and Oklahoma City. New York City was being hit hard by the pandemic, but only issued a mandate for people in certain public-facing professions. Here's a quote from an ad that the Red Cross ran. Quote, "Doctors wear them. Those who do not wear them get sick. The man or woman or child who will not wear a mask now is a dangerous slacker." End quote. Here's another thing that's particularly interesting. The masks of 1918 were usually made of thin gauze, and we now know that public masking made very little difference to the pandemic in those years. Also, masks were mostly encouraged to be worn outdoors but not indoors. The materials being used weren't like they are now, so those anti-maskers back then protesting the science were probably right. And that's the biggest difference between then and now. Today's masks, particularly N95 masks and the ones that are being encouraged by healthcare professionals, An N95 mask filters out 95% of particles in the air as small as 0.3 microns. The coronavirus is 0.1 micron, but it's usually attached to something larger like droplets of moisture from breathing and talking. The moral of the story is that we've had 100 years to get the science of masks right, and the anti-mask voices have only gotten louder with less evidence. Maybe we need to institute those $5 fines again. Of course, $5 in 1918 money is around $90 today. But we all know that could never be done. Most people in 1918 were patriotic. The anti-mask voices back then were a very small percentage of the population, especially compared with how it is now. Their husbands and sons and fathers were in the middle of fighting a war. Children were going around collecting charcoal to be used in gas masks for our soldiers in France. Ignorance didn't get amplified by social media, and people cared about each other just a little bit more. Now it's time for the part of the podcast where I call a friend. Today I'm calling Kelly Collette. Kelly has been a finalist on CMT's Next Big Comic. She tours clubs and colleges throughout the country. Her jokes have been featured on Pandora and SiriusXM and in a segment for NPR. She filmed a special for Dry Bar Comedy in November 2020, and she was also named Cincinnati's favorite comedian by City Beat Cincinnati magazine. Kelly, it is so good to see you. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We met a long time ago. It's actually the only time we've ever met. You were in college.
I'm glad you remembered.
You were in college in Kentucky, and I performed at your college. This was before you were a comedian. In fact, you were the reason that we met was because I believe that you twisted a balloon dog for me or something. You made some sort of balloon thing for me.
It was either a dog or a sword.
Oh, I think you're right. I think it's a sword. I'm going to have to go try to find... there's a photo somewhere, I believe.
I couldn't let you have all the fun up there. I had to make it about me, apparently.
I should have had you open the act with balloon animals.
How were you to know that I was a star? Sitting in the audience.
You never know. You never know who your audience is. I once performed for Jason Aldean's sister, and you would think that that wouldn't be a big deal or something that would be notable until like we had gone to a Jason Aldean show a couple weeks after that, and I took a photo of Jason Aldean and put it on my Instagram, and then she commented, "Now you've met the whole family." And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, that's my brother. It was just a weird thing. You never know who's in the audience.
Also, why is her entire family just her and her brother? She's not gonna
That's true.
Meet my grandma.
I've never met her folks. That is true. That's good.
That was
when you're
such a fun meeting, because then I wrote you and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about trying stand up. So I kind of credit you with my first time I was ever on stage. You kind of talked me off of a ledge of trying some really, really weird stuff that I wasn't planning on doing. You're like, just go be funny. And I took your advice.
That's good. I'm happy to hear that. I've never heard a story where it was like, oh, you told me to do stand-up and it was the worst decision I ever made. And now I hate you.
Oh, yeah. No, you totally ruined my life. But I just want to give you like a little shout out.
Good.
Sorry, my dog is sniffing around on the ground.
I can hear the jingling of the tags. Oh, weenie dog.
Hi.
Awesome.
This is Luna.
My dogs aren't allowed down here because this is just it's a mess. In this studio is like a whole thing. There's just stuff laying around everywhere.
Oh, that's a nice studio. When did you start working for Fox News? It's very, very big and bright.
Well, I would say my big break was meeting the Aldean family. That got me. It was a springboard to Fox News.
Yep.
Question 1, Kelly. For this first question, we're playing for a joke. So if you get it right, I have to tell a joke. If you get it wrong, you'll tell me one. And it can be a jokey joke, a joke book joke. It doesn't have to be, something from your material.
That's perfect.
Which one? I haven't prepared anything. Okay, good. Which one of these groups formed as a response to the flu pandemic of 1918? So one of these groups formed as a direct response. A, the CDC. B, the Anti-Mask League of San Francisco, or C, the Anti-Coughing Patrol of New York?
So, CDC sounds about right. The Anti-Coughing Patrol sounds ridiculous enough it could be true. And anti-maskers, might have been around back then as well. I'm going to go with B,
The Anti-Mask League of San Francisco?
I guess so.
You are correct. The Anti-Mask League of San Francisco was a direct response to mask mandates in 1918 in San Francisco, one of the strictest places in the country for the masking. They were fining people, and they were even threatening putting people in jail for 100 days. The mayor was fined $5 for smoking a cigar while his mask was hanging off his ear. It was a whole thing that mirrors exactly what's happening here.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So here's your joke. What do you call a fly with no wings?
I don't know, Michael. What do you call a fly with no wings?
A fly. The irony is unfortunate, but the name doesn't change.
Very good.
I got a whole list of anti-jokes because our guest last week, Jimmy Mack, loves anti-jokes. So I found a whole bunch of them.
That was a good episode. I'm very afraid the next question is going to be for push-ups, though.
We're not doing push-ups this week.
Okay.
I'm still out of breath. I cannot do more push-ups. That was a week ago, and I'm like, I literally the next day had pain in my pecs and my arms because it had been so long since I'd done anything physical activity. Like pre-pandemic was the last time I did any physical activity. It was horrible. Now,
and you went straight 20. That's crazy.
Straight to 20. Now, there was a time I could have done many more, and 20 was very difficult. I will say I did not turn the camera on. For those of you watching the videos on Patreon, I did not turn the camera on the floor while I was doing them, so I could have faked the whole thing. But I swear to you here, I did not. Those were legitimate push-ups. If you see me on the street and you think that I faked it, I'll do 20 for you. Anywhere you ask. I shouldn't have said that. Question number 2. Last week, we did the push-ups. This week, we're going to do a tongue twister. So instead of my arm getting a workout, my arm's getting a workout, we'll get the tongue workout. If you get it right, I'll say a tongue twister of your choice. If you get it wrong, I'll issue one to you. During this current pandemic, we've seen people going to the hospital and even dying because they're trying cures they read from their aunt's Facebook page rather than listening to doctors. In 1918, which one of these cures actually may have caused more flu deaths than it helped? A, aspirin. B, leech-based bloodletting. Or C, horse dewormer.
All right. So I know they were super into leeches. They were like the hot commodity. They were like the Gucci bag of the medical world back then. So I'm going to go with leeches.
The answer, believe it or not, is aspirin. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
One hypothesis suggests that many flu deaths could actually be attributed to aspirin poisoning. Medical authorities at the time recommended large doses of aspirin, up to 30 grams a day. And to give you reference, today, a maximum safe daily dose is like 4 grams. So they were giving 30 grams of aspirin, and that can lead to many of the symptoms of that pandemic, which included bleeding. So I have to give you a tongue twister now.
I'm for it.
Here it is. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. And maybe like 5 times. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Okay, we've gotten that.
I hate it.
I know, it's a good one. Yeah. You have been getting through the pandemic through the art of art. You've been painting and posting your amazing paintings on your social media and things like that. How is this something that you were always interested in and this just gave you a time to really let it fly?
Absolutely. I think everybody should develop a COVID hobby. No, I never knew if I was good at painting. Our classes I took in high school were taught by this very crotchety old man who, had his very strict rules of what was art and what wasn't. He was an awesome guy, but I never had the, bravado to try anything on my own. And then I was stuck in the house with COVID, and I was like, I need to do something, just something.
It's interesting. Sometimes putting constraints on art can be a creative influence, and sometimes taking those restraints off can be a creative influence. And for me, putting the restraints on is what gets me creative. And it sounds like for you, it was the opposite. Once you realized art doesn't have to be what this teacher told me it was. It can be anything. Now, here's my question for you, because you are selling your paintings, right?
Some people have offered me money for them, and to which I have said thank you. Yes.
Commissioned or after you've already made them?
Both.
Okay.
Sometimes. Yeah, that's always nice.
So my question is this, because I have my pandemic hobby was photography, specifically bird photography, and I have gotten way into it. But I'm afraid to monetize it. I'm afraid I've been offered, like, people are like, I want to buy your bird photos. Where can I buy them? And I've refused doing any of that because I'm afraid of ruining it. Has doing it for money changed your level of obligation, your feeling about how you treat your hobby?
I wish I had the integrity that you had. It has not. I think it's because I don't charge a lot for my stuff.
Okay.
So I'm still in the humble realm of, my God, I can't believe you want this from me. So I will charge you a very cheap rate, even for commissions. So yeah, I am just making enough to buy more supplies, if that.
Yeah.
So it hasn't ruined it. If anything, I've ruined it by having no self-confidence in my ability.
So
but it's been fun.
That's kind of why I don't want to monetize it, is because I still don't have a ton of confidence. And part of that is because when you go out and you do bird photography, there are spots where people congregate, right? If there's one hot spot, and you meet other photographers who have been doing it for 30 years. And I see these people, and some of them may or may not sell their photos, but like, who am I to come in and start a hobby, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, and be like, oh, I'm just going to start michaelkentphotos.com or whatever it is, and like start selling birds, bird photos to everyone.
You can't help it if people resonate with the thing that you're creating. And as humble and as like, what's the word where you have a phantom, like, you don't think you're the thing in your head. Yeah,
imposter syndrome is what you're.
Thank you. Yeah. There's a tongue twister. Irish wish-wash. Imposter syndrome. As much as we have that, we can't be the gatekeeper of ourselves. Sometimes people can let us take that guard down and say, "No, I do want this thing." So you can take that wall down too.
That's
be
really
vulnerable with. Yeah.
That's really great advice. And imposter syndrome is something that I think a lot of entertainers struggle with.
Right.
Because it's one of those things where it feels fake. I mean, it feels like a fake job, so let's keep moving. Question 3. For this question, we're playing for a coveted The Internet Says It's True sticker. These stickers these are only available through Patreon or if you win the third question. So, which one of these following celebrities considers themselves an anti-masker? A. Sarah Jessica Parker. B. Noel Gallagher. Or C. Reese Witherspoon.
Well, I don't think it's Reese. I don't know who Noel Gallagher is. He's from Oasis, right?
He is from Oasis.
Definitely him.
You should have had more confidence. Your imposter syndrome kicked in and made you think you didn't know that one.
I was like, wait a minute, I heard that guy's name. I think it's him.
You think it's him? You are correct. It is Noel Gallagher. Yeah. His quote was, and I'm going to censor this because I keep this podcast language clean. I don't give an F. I choose not to wear one. If I get the virus, it's on me. It's not on anyone else. If every other C word is wearing a mask, I'm not going to catch it off them. And if I've got it, they're not going to catch it off me. I don't understand any of the logic that he's doing, but he's Noel Gallagher, famous for being a goon. And then he followed that quote by, so anyway, here's Wonderwall.
So that line, maybe you're going to be the one that saves me, isn't really true. He only wants to save himself.
So you got that right, which means you will get an Internet Says It's True sticker in the mail, which is exciting because there aren't many of these out there. And if you want one and you're listening, Patreon is only $1 a month. It's patreon.com/Michael Kent. I'll send you a sticker along with being able to see all the videos that we do, all of the interview videos every week you can watch. Let's move on.
You can see my dog. You can see my dog, which is worth $1.
And during the first question, I didn't mention this, but during the first question, when I asked that to Kelly, her dog was looking at her with wide eyes saying, what are you going to say? What's it going to be? What do you think the answer is? It was very cute.
Very puzzling.
Question 4. For this question, we're playing for 5 Twitter followers. So if you get it right, I will get you 5 Twitter followers the best I can. If you get it wrong, you've got to get me 5. This person got in trouble last year for comparing wearing a mask to the Holocaust, tweeting that a grocery store chain's decision to let vaccinated employees go maskless while wearing vaccination logos was, quote, just like the Nazis forced Jewish people to wear a gold star, end quote. Who said that? Was it A, actor Charlie Sheen, B, comedian Dave Chappelle, or C, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I was going to answer before you even read the answers, but I was like, well, if it's D, everybody's grandma, that could also be correct. I'm going to go with C, Voldemort.
C, Voldemort is the answer. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was later forced to apologize after visiting the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum because enough people on her side of the aisle got on her about saying that. And since then, many other people have said similar things, and no one has had to apologize, which is insane. I thought actor Charlie Sheen was maybe believable with this one, but I don't know. He seems like someone who would say something stupid.
He seems like someone who wouldn't even know something's going on right now, though.
That's true.
Know?
That's true. Well, I'm gonna try to get you 5 Twitter followers because you got that right. Here's our final question, Kelly, and this one is for all the marbles. If you get this wrong, I'm banning you from the show. You'll never be asked on again.
What?
Here's your current question. What is currently inspiring you?
I took a writing workshop last week. So that was very inspiring. It was at a retreat center. It was with Cheryl Strayed. She's a famous author. She wrote the book Wild, which a lot of white women have read who are having midlife crises. So that was very inspiring because I learned how to be vulnerable and trying not to mask every single thing I write with a joke. It has been very, very, very difficult, but it is a challenge that I threw myself in. And you can only grow when you get outside your comfort zone. So
wow, fantastic answer. We'll say that's a winner. I have not read the book Wild, but I did watch the movie on a international flight and cried because
with that anti-masker Reese Witherspoon. She's the star.
She's the
great
star.
Movie.
Does not wear a mask through the whole movie, I should add.
Yes.
Read into that what you will. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. You can follow Kelly on Twitter. It's at Kelly Collette, COLLETTE, and you can visit her website at kellycoletteComedy.com. Do you have any upcoming things you want to tell us about?
Well, my dry bar special is coming out in 2022. So if you like clean comedy, please check that out. Other things coming up, I'll be in Skyline Comedy Club in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm going to be in Milwaukee in a few weeks. And I have an art page on Instagram. It's something new that I'm trying. So kelly.canvas is the art page.
Kelly.canvas. Go check that out. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Well, that's all for this week. Thanks so much to Kelly Collette for being my guest. I made a kid take off his mask to say the following.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. Don't forget to join up on Patreon if you want to see the unedited video of the guest appearance or to hear bonus episodes. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. Also, if you learned something that you didn't already know from the show, please visit iTunes and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That's the rule. You gotta do it. That helps us a ton because that's how the algorithm works, to get the podcast suggested to more people. And that way we can keep learning something new, if the internet says it's true.
The Internet Says It's True. I'd like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help make this show possible. Sean Brown, Catherine Morgan, Taylor Hurt, Tony Ford, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Matt McVeigh, Jim Martin, Joanne Martin, and the show's official emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and additional music this week was from Chopin and Unicorn Heads. All audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.